Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Good Coach, Bad Coach. Secrets that great coaches know that the others never figure out. You know, Bruce, one of the things that I'm seeing out in the market is as people acquire talent, they really don't know what to do with that talent. I mean, we are just inundated with people wanting us to coach and develop their teams. They don't want to fool with it. They don't know what to do. They don't know how to do it. So many years ago, I read a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and I thought it was very interesting the way he compared and contrasted the secrets and habits of good rich people versus poor people. Yeah. And so I sat down and wrote a blog one day called Good Coach, Bad Coach, read by over 3,000 people, and one of the most popular blogs I've ever written. And I said, man, what if we did a show every week, short 15-minute show on how to be a good coach? Now, lots of people listen to this. College basketball coaches, maybe some professional coaches, assistant coaches. But a lot of people that watch this show are managers that are coaching and developing talent. They're recruiting and attracting, they're coaching and developing, and they're retaining talent. So that's what we're talking about today. So Bruce serves up the topics, little birdie tells me we're going to be talking about one of my little books called The Intangibles. MTSU just bought a copy of this for all of the people at MTSU in their coaching classes. I'm going to go over and speak on that at some point and break down that little book. I wrote it on a Saturday afternoon, and let me tell you why I wrote it. My buddy Corey Barrett was a coach at Riverdale High School, and he called me and he said, man, I want to do all that stuff you used to do with your team. Yeah. How do I do it? And I said, well, if I could give you a notebook that had 40 lessons in it, 40 little lessons on how to build the intangibles of your team, would you use it? And he said yes, and he bought a copy of that book and he used it with his team. Yeah. So what are we talking today?
Well, the topic really you've already kind of answered. You all right?
That's it. Hiccups, man. Hiccups.
One of the topics that I wanted to talk to you about is the intangibles. How do you build the intangibles in both yourself as a coach and as a team? Having spent a lot of time around you now, formerly 4 or 5 years while I was in grad school, and then now full time for 3 or 4 months. You're always looking for that kind of that unfair advantage for yourself, right, in the market, and you're trying to figure out how to solve problems and all those kind of things. And so I want to rewind now back to when you're 18, 19, 20 years old. Were you always that way? Were you always kind of a student of the game? Were you always trying to figure out what is my unfair advantage as a young coach? And, like I said, I want to do a topic for all the young coaches out there who are really trying to figure out what is it that I can do better than other people. So how do you extract that when you're younger?
My high school coach called me professor. He said I broke down the game, was very analytical. At that point, it was not this intangible piece. I was really good and talented with connecting to younger players. I was good at, hadn't honed out my motivational skills yet. But my coach did see the fact that I really watched and paid attention to things. Yeah. And so it was 18 years old. I remember it like it was yesterday. I was at a Don Meyer coaching clinic, the great Don Meyer, who has since passed to cancer, and he said, I noticed his players carried notebooks around everywhere they went. They took notes. He had life lessons. He was this philosopher. Yeah. I mean, he really was kind of like this coach / philosopher together. Had all these little idiosyncrasies that he said, and man, the players were just like little robots, man. And so I said one day, if I ever become a head coach, I will teach my players those things. Daily notes, daily notebooks, and daily habits. And what I really was teaching, I didn't know at the time, was called the intangibles. And an intangible is something that you can't measure, but you can feel it. Chemistry, trust, toughness, buy-in, likability, vision. These are intangibles, okay, that really hold a team together like glue. You can't measure them, but you sure know what it is if you have them.
So would you recommend to all the young coaches out there to look past just traditional coaching books? Because one thing I've noticed you've done very well, and you talk about this a lot as a younger coach, is you would extract business materials and bring them over into the coaching arena. And that really turned out to be one of your unfair advantages. Would you agree with that?
Well, it turned out to be an unfair advantage. So if I were to ask you this question as a coach, what is your unfair advantage? If it's not hard work, because everybody's working hard, if it's not bigger, faster, stronger, because everybody's big and fast and strong, although that can be an advantage, what if I could give you an unfair advantage, and that unfair advantage is what I call a competitive intelligence, i.e. your players are more connected, they trust each other better, they buy into you more, they will fight for each other harder. If I could get your players to do that, would you take it? Because I postulate that 4 to 6 wins per year on your schedule, or if you're in football, 1 to 2 wins, it could go either way. You'll win because of that little small, what I call a competitive advantage.
Now, when you were a younger coach, did you identify this stuff on your own? And so the reason I ask this question is really for all the young coaches out there. Do you look to other people to kind of tell you and identify unfair advantages for you, whether it's your personality, character, all those different kind of things? Do you look to other people to kind of help identify that, or you just do it with yourself? A self-analysis.
I don't think you can do it self-analysis. As a young coach, I didn't realize what my unfair advantage is. I'm 39 now. I can look back and say, man, this is what made me a little bit different than everybody else. There were coaches that were certainly better at X's and O's, although I was pretty good. I was very offensive-minded. I studied the game. I studied philosophy. But where I was really good was how to get more out of our players, how to get them to believe in themselves when they didn't believe in themselves, how to get them to form as a unit. I was really good at the discipline and structure of building a program. And, it's things I could have got a lot better at, but we were pretty good at those things.
Now, would you spend time practicing like your speeches about this material? Because you're very good at extracting materials. So if it's a Good to Great, if it's Stephen Covey, if it's Lencioni's 5 Dysfunctions of Team, would you extract that material, pinpoint certain things that you want to take from it, and then give it to somebody else before you gave it to the team, or would you just kind of, as a captive audience, give it to the team?
The team is who got it. Now, where the talent comes in is that 14 to 18-year-olds can't break down the 7 habits of highly effective people, the 5 dysfunctions of teams. So what I really focused on was dumbing that material down, reducing it to the ridiculousness, as our buddy Dan Elam says. I would take those 7 habits and make them where a 14-year-old could understand it. And that was very valuable because these were complicated subjects. A person don't understand paradigms and personality ethics and all of these things when they're young. They just don't understand. And so I had to break it down. And speaking of breaking it down, we need to break it down for a break. You're watching Good Coach, Bad Coach. I'm Coach Micheal Burt, Super Coach. We got Bruce Lund, the expert here. Today we're tackling my little book, The Intangibles, because if I had to subtitle this, I would say there's more to winning than just practicing. You're watching Good Coach, Bad Coach, or you're listening to us on podcast. I'm Coach Micheal Burt. Hey, this is Coach Micheal Burt, and I have a prediction. Within the next 5 years, every manager in the world will have to become a coach. You know, a good coach will do 3 things for you. They make you have conversations you don't want to have. They make you do some things you don't want to do. They'll help you become something you didn't think you could become. This transition, what I call the coaching revolution, prompted me to create a program called Turn Your Managers into Coaches. What we want to do is drive up engagement, drive up production. We want to become a manager other people want to follow. If you've got managers out there that you want to turn into coaches that engage people in systematic behaviors that allows them to do something tomorrow they simply cannot do today, pick up the phone and call us, 225-8380, 615-225-8380, or email us at info@coachburt.com, and we're going to teach you how to turn your managers into great coaches. Welcome back, Good Coach, Bad Coach. Secrets of great coaches know that the other people never figure out. Thank you to all the people that listen to us on iTunes, Stitcher, podcast. Brandon Ray's our guy back here behind the scenes, and we got a brand new studio. If you hadn't noticed, and I push Stitcher Radio a lot, but I've noticed now they got this new iPhone. That the iPhone app for podcasts, pretty darn good.
Is it?
It's pretty good. Ain't bad. Stitcher's good, but the iPhone app's not that bad. So when you think about it, you can listen to us.
Is Apple an official sponsor of today's show? What's going on here?
It should be, because I will admit the Apple product is much better than the Samsung, and that's all the Apple junkies out there. I agree with you. Today we're talking intangibles, unfair advantage. Bruce Lund, an expert, is asking me questions about these certain topics and how we did it. I can look back on it now and say, here's what we did well, here's what we didn't do so well. There are things we don't do well as a coach, obviously, but there were things we did pretty good that I think other coaches can pick up on and be better as a result of. And that's what this show's about.
Yeah, and at the break, Coach, you were talking about it. One thing that all coaches do, and I remember this, whenever you make a mistake, it was run, time to do monsters, time to do up-downs, push-ups, sit-ups, whatever it might be. And you touched on this right before break. A lot of coaches will say, okay, well, we need to practice harder. We need to exercise more. We need to be in better shape. But the reality is, one of the key concepts I've ever learned from you is the whole person theory, which is, when you study Covey and you brought that over to the arena. How do you break down the whole person theory, and why do so many coaches kind of lack that when it comes to those 4 different parts?
The whole person theory is a complicated theory that Covey introduced in the early 90s that many coaches have never figured out, even great coaches. Great coaches think we'll work them harder, we'll push them more. So let's look at 2 questions here. Here's one question Coach asked. How can we get more out of our people? How can we squeeze every ounce of potential out of our people?
And this is for managers too, right?
That's right. The other question, we can squeeze these people.
Yeah.
We can push and shove and motivate and, we can do it all. Carrot and stick. The other better question is how can we meet our people's core needs and they'll give us more?
Yeah.
So the whole person theory says there's 4 parts of a person's nature. The body, that's physical. The mind, mental. The heart, okay, that's passion. The spirit, the spirit of a person, okay? The spiritual aspect of a person. And many people believe that's the most important intelligence. And so when you think about this, the way I would put it to a coach is when you lost last year, we all lose. Very few teams go undefeated, maybe a UConn. But when you lost last year, why did you lose? Did you lose because you didn't practice enough? Nah, worked them to death, man.
Yeah.
We exceeded. Many of the coaches out there cheat and work them longer than they should. The second, did you lose because you didn't weight lift enough? No, we worked them as much as we could in there. Well, did you lose because you didn't have enough trust on the team? You didn't believe in each other. You didn't have chemistry. You didn't love each other. You didn't have each other's back. You didn't have all of these intangibles.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, man, that's where we lost. They didn't buy into me. They didn't buy into each other. We didn't have leadership. So any way you want to look at it, these are intangibles.
Yeah.
So the good coach speaks to the body, practice, weightlifting, skill development, speaks to the mind, vision, knowledge, IQ, leadership intelligence, social intelligence, speaks to the heart, validation, passion, and speaks to the spirit, belief in self, belief in a higher power. We're using sport as a vehicle for life. Good coach understands those 4 parts.
So how would you break it down for the coach out there? Because I'm with you, man, and whenever we would have practice, we'd always focus on usually the mind and the body, right? You'd study film, all those kind of things, so that was for the mind. The body was you practice, you do all these moves. What exercises would you then do to work on the heart or work on the confidence of the player?
Yeah,
The spirit?
confidence, we wrote a whole book on it called Swag, and I believe confidence is an asset that can be built, maintained, and protected. I think what takes years to build up can take seconds to tear down. People are emotionally fragile today. They get shaken very easily. They're not very tough. Their confidence is very low. We just did a show with the former addict who lost his son to a drug addiction, and he said it all starts with low self-esteem.
Yeah.
And if you've ever seen the movie Limitless, it's where he's kind of a bum and he's going nowhere, and he takes this drug and he feels like he can do anything. Yep. And it all started with a lack of confidence. So I'm looking for something. And so confidence, a good coach can teach a person how to build, maintain, and protect that confidence. Most coaches spend a lot of their time destroying the confidence in other people. They're confidence killers, okay, not confidence protectors. When it comes to the heart, validation, passion, I think some expectation. You expect greatness. You project greatness. Here's a great one for coaches. You affirm and validate the worth and potential in another person. Yeah. You extend them, you stretch them, you push them, you believe in them. But in essence, you're seeing the good in them versus the bad.
Why is it that a lot of coaches focus on the emotional toughness and they think that they have to tear down the players so much? Is it authoritative? Why would coaches try to tear down their players when they should really be building up their confidence?
Well, there's a paradox here. I take my daughter, for example, 3 years old. We send her to school. We pay $700 a month for her. And they won't let you watch what they do in the first 3 months. I don't know what they're doing, but I suspect they're breaking her down of bad habits, selfishness, teamwork. They're stripping her of habits that will be counterproductive to her. And coaches feel like they have to do the same thing. Now, take it to the manager level. I could take a bunch of young people that are coachable and hungry and teach them up because they listen. Or I could teach people who have been doing it for 30 years and they got their own strategies, their own mindset. It's not working, but you can't strip them of that. A lot of coaches say you got to build them down, you got to break them down, you got to build them back up. Hoosiers.
Yeah.
He had to break them down. Coach Carter had to break them down, had to build them back up. These are all examples of why we have to do that. It's really the stripping away of a bad habit in your life. To be quite honest with you, that sometimes we need another person to strip us away. This morning when I was in the gym, we were going to failure, and man, I would quit on bench pressing many times 3 and 4 times failure because my mind wanted to shut down, but my trainer wouldn't let me. He said, man, you got 3 or 4 more in you. And I would try to put, and so what he was really doing was stretching me. And that was a good thing because when we're finished, thank you for stripping me of that mindset.
Speaking of the confidence topic, we actually have a course in confidence coming up for young people. I know that's going to be something that we're going to continue to push.
That's right.
Because it's like the number one thing that parents will come to us and say, our kids need more of this, confidence, number one thing. So I just want to make sure that we gave that a shameless plug here on the show.
An insecure person always goes backward. They never go forward. A confident person progresses. An inconfident person or not confident person digresses. They contract and retreat. They go back. Confident people won't risk an opportunity. They see opportunity where other people see nothing. So confidence, if you ask me, I want my daughter, if I want to instill a confidence in her that she can accomplish anything that she sets her mind to.
Now, getting back to the whole person theory, I did want to touch on this because I played high school basketball, and I would always, whenever we'd sit and watch the girls' team, because the guys and the girls usually play in the same night, so you'd watch each other play. Well, I would always admire the fundamentals of a girls' basketball game compared to the men's game, right? And so when you're comparing and contrasting men's versus women's, have you noticed a difference between coaching the mind, body, heart, and spirit of a guy versus a girl? Because, like I said, I just noticed them running plays. It was always crisp. They're detailed, structured. Men's, man, they just get out there and they think one-man show, I can take this guy or whatever it might be. So there might be less team ball. What are some different things that you've seen between coaching both sides?
I mean, it's been a long time since I coached guys, but that's one reason I coach girls. I felt like we could affect the body, the mind, the heart, and the spirit of our players. I felt like it was easier to build a team cohesive unit with the girls team versus a boys team. I felt there was more teamwork on girls versus boys. But sometimes as guys we rely on our athleticism and our talent. We wing it. Girls are more thoughtful. They're more planned out. They think through things. Guys just go at it, man, and whatever happens, happens.
Yeah. I have noticed that. Like I said, it's one of those things where you watch guys and they rely so much on their one thing, their strength, and women are much better at kind of going through and understanding what their other things are. Let's go ahead and break down some of these things. When you use Lencioni's five dysfunctions of teams, what would an exercise look like so that your team would get that strategy? So how would you extract these business concepts? Like I said, because we're talking about your unfair advantage as a coach. How would you extract these things and then bring them over and would your players be kind of receptive or would they fight it? What did that look like?
Well, first, this is new. 14-year-old never heard of 7 habits or 5 dysfunctions. They don't know what a dysfunction is.
Yeah.
So we got them in and taught them. We would do it in 14-minute sessions, 7 minutes on life, 7 minutes on sport. I brought in videos to articulate it. We did leadership academies. I had certain players read certain books and get up and present. So basically, I would take a business concept, extract the concept, dumb it down, synthesize it, break it down, and I'd share it with my team over and over and over. We may be on the 5 dysfunctions for 4 weeks, 6 weeks. I mean, it wasn't something we did in a day. It was something that we did over a period of time. Every year had a theme. Power of intention, become a category of 1. And that would be the theme of every meeting. How do we become a category of 1? What does it mean? So think of it this, it was like the success school that you never had in school.
Yeah, that's strong.
And so I felt like it gave my players a competitive advantage. That's my own personal belief. Maybe or maybe it didn't, but I become known. People didn't know what we were doing. They said, you're brainwashing kids. They couldn't understand it. Well, they couldn't understand it because they didn't take the time to read the books like I did.
Now, how do you use this over now in the corporate world? Because we go and we sit down and we do our explanation of services to a lot of different companies, and they're always asking basically is what can we expect out of your services? And you usually will break it down to them just like that. You'll go through, and we believe in ongoing, systematic, trained, outperformed, untrained. And so that's really what you're saying there is that you can extract these materials given away, and it's not just one time. You're not just telling them here are the 7 habits. Now understand and learn them. You're going over 4 years when they're within your program. Make the case for why how we do that in business.
Well, the way we form a habit is by consistent, repetitive, ongoing, systematic pattern. We don't do it in one day. We have to do it over and over, and I think that's what coaching is. So for all the managers out there listening, coaches engage people in a set of systematic and consistent behaviors, but you say, what are they teaching? The body, the mind, the heart, and the spirit. Or to break it down and make it simpler, knowledge for the mind, skills for the body, desire for the heart, confidence for the spirit. Those are the 4 parts of a person's nature: to live, to love, to learn, to leave a legacy. And so so here would be a question, and we'll probably need to wrap it up in a minute. What good is it to have skill, talent, with no desire or passion? What good is it to have desire, passion with no skill? What good is it to have knowledge, skill, and desire, body, mind, heart, with no confidence?
And you use this on every person you meet within the corporate world, right? You can break down within those 4 parts. That is the whole person theory. Is you can identify right away, this person's lacking talent.
That's right.
This person lacks desire. This person lacks whatever it might be.
Yeah, when you look at person of interest, all of them have knowledge, skills, desire, and confidence. That's the whole person. Some of them may lack the spiritual piece, but you can diagnose pretty quickly where their deficiency is, which tells me where I need to coach them. Do I need to coach them in body, in mind, in heart, in spirit? And so that gives me a quick paradigm to quickly size up a person to make a decision.
Let's wrap it up and just tell those young coaches out there, how do they find that unfair advantage? Is it an ongoing process?
For some people's unfair advantage, it's their X and O mindset. For some people at the collegiate level, it's their recruiting prowess. For some people, it's their ability to relate to their players and get them to buy in. For some people, they're great marketers. You know,
Yeah.
You got to figure out. For me, mine was what I call competitive intelligence.
Yeah.
Sounds like a pretty good book I need to write next, isn't it?
That is a pretty good
But the
one.
competitive intelligence is, it's the one thing that separates you from everybody else.
What you really just said there is you identified the different traits of a whole person, and you broke them down. And so every coach has some kind of unfair advantage within the whole person theory that they can use to their advantage. You writing down this next book right now?
Yeah, I'm writing it out.
Going on?
That's it. I'm writing it
I
right now.
love it. This guy will take this notepad and write down thoughts all over the world, man. He'll be driving down the road and we'll just start writing them down. Coach, you want me to grab the wheel? What's going on here? So.
That's how you get better, man. You take notes, you study life. And that's something I think it's missing out there, is that a lot of coaches, we did a show last week called A Year Older But Not a Year Better. You got to take notes, man. You got to study your craft.
Yeah.
You got to be better today than you were yesterday. You got to get better. If not, you just keep freaking pulling out the same things, man.
And I would say that's an unfair advantage that you have, man. You're always constantly seeking out ways to win in the market, figure out your differential advantage. And so that's strong. That's your unfair advantage that you've always had.
Unfair advantage, guys, very seldom is in the body. Now, Shaquille O'Neal, yes. And unless you're some freak of nature, many times it always comes when the mind and the heart and the spirit.
Shaq still had a passion for the sport, though, too.
That's right.
So
He's good, man.
there you go.
Good coach, bad coach, secrets of great coaches. No, get this copy of this little book, Intangibles. We got a whole new batch in.
Thank you, MTSU, for that order.
MTSU for ordering that. Go to CoachBurt.com, click on Intangibles. We'll drop this puppy right to your house. We believe in you. We believe everybody needs a coach in life. Goodness gracious, we appreciate you letting us be yours. Have a great week, everybody.
Look out for A Course in Confidence coming soon, guys.